Hello, everyone. Welcome to DAMA Sydney branch webinar on Intelligent Data Catalog. I am Naeem Mahmood, one of the volunteers of DAMA Sydney branch. I'm very excited about today's event. May I request you to put your name and the location in the chat window so that we understand from where you're connecting. And that will also give us a couple of minutes to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to attend. We have around 125 people registered for this event, and we are having people everywhere from Australia, and a couple of attendees are from overseas as well. So let's say hi to everyone, and feel free to write comments. Hello, Misty. Hello, Rajiv.
Hi, Naeem. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Hello, Daryl. We'll just give a minute for everyone to join, and we'll start the session. Okay, so before we start this webinar, DAMA Australia and Sydney branch acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognize their contribution to land, waters, and culture. We pay our respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. Same respect is extended to all the Indigenous people who are watching this webinar around the world. We will be recording today's session, and the recording of the session will be uploaded to our YouTube channel and DAMA website. If you don't want to be recorded, please turn off your video and audio. If you have any question for the speakers, please type it into the Q&A section of the system or the Zoom webinar. If you want to talk to each other, you can use the chat option and continue to talk to each other. Data catalog has evolved from just search and discovery. In our webinar, Raja will discuss the latest capabilities such as collaboration, crowdsourcing, machine learning, AI, and their role to enable data culture within an organization. In addition, we'll take a look at how pandemic has changed the landscape of data culture and how data catalog enables the change. Just want to introduce Raja, who is one of the senior managers at Alation, and he actually helps organizations to unlock the value of data for his clients. Welcome, Raja. And we have a challenge this morning. Aaron had a family emergency this morning, and he won't be able to facilitate the session. So we have Raja today here to facilitate the session on behalf of Aaron, of course, and Alation. Welcome, Raja.
Thank you. Okay, so let me introduce myself and confirm, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So I want to again apologize. My colleague Aaron unfortunately had a family issue, but I will be able to take care of this presentation by myself. So I want to state two things from the beginning. First, an introduction. My name is Raja Peramal, and I am a senior manager in our business development practice at Alation. And my goal is to help our customers understand how Alation and the data catalog space plays in the broader data ecosystem. So I'm happy to answer any questions about data catalogs and the ecosystem surrounding them, as well as the content in this presentation. The second thing I wanted to state is that I will stop for questions 3 or 4 times throughout the course of this presentation. So I'm attempting to monitor the chat, and if you have any questions, feel free to toss it into the Q&A section, and I will try my best to answer it when we take a moment to stop. Without further descriptions, I'll just go ahead and get into the presentation. Today, we're going to talk about why data-driven organizations need a data catalog and what it means for the data culture. And throughout the presentation, we'll talk about the impacts of obvious current events on driving the need for that for a data culture. So first, let's talk about what is a data culture and why it's important. We are discovering, or the customers are telling research organizations that Obviously, everyone knows that data is important, but the way to understand the impact of data, the way to get that return on investment of data, is to have a data culture. So that means that when you have a question that you need to get answered that has a material impact on your business, the culture of the company needs to skew to getting an answer to that question with data. And while that may be obvious to many of the people on this call, we're all already invested in data in our organizations. Creating this culture of data requires a lot of active participation from all persona types and all groups within an organization. Once you do that, however, the benefits are obvious to most organizations who are going through this journey. I'm not going to bore you by going through every single statistic on this slide or during this presentation, but I'll just highlight the ones that I think are key. The one that on this slide jumps out to me is organizations with data cultures are 7 times more likely to increase revenue as a result of big data. Everyone is gathering lots of data. Everyone knows that they have data at hand, but implementing a data culture will let you take that data and turn it into an asset that actually impacts your bottom line. Having a data culture is quite crucial, and these are 3 different pillars for why a data culture is crucial, and some of them are obvious, and to me some of them are very impactful. For obviously there's a data explosion happening, and just the numbers in this presentation are probably already incorrect from the time we created it. Right, data is growing so quickly that it's just we really are having difficulty keeping up with it. However, at the same time, we also have an evolving set of laws that are coming up across the entire globe that large multinational corporations need to react to. GDPR in particular sees a lot of movement, regardless of even if you have an actual presence in the EU. If you have any customers there or any data relating to the EU, obviously that's of risk. But the one that I think is the pillar that's most impactful to the world that we're living today is the changing workforce. And the reason why I say this is I used to give a lot of demos of Alation, and there's a key point where I talk about the need for a data catalog, where I just ask a question. When you have a data-driven question, how do you find out where to get an answer to that question? And almost every single time I got some variation of, well, I hope I ran into the right person in the coffee room or at the cafeteria, and that's how we figured out where a data set is that they could use to answer a question. And obviously these days, that's just not happening. You are not running into the people to get answers to those data-driven questions. Obviously every work situation is different, but we can't assume that to be the case. So we need a place where users and members of organizations with data culture is to collaborate with each other to make sure that they can deal with the needs of their changing workforce. So what does this all mean? A company wants to see data-driven questions and answers to drive their business. To do that, they need a data culture to make sure that the people in their organization understand how to use data and understand the importance of data. What are the pillars that build to that? Well, first, we need a way to search and discover data. From a fundamental level, if you have an answer that can be answered with data, you need to know where that data is. Then you need to know what is the appropriate way to use that data. Just because you found a huge table with millions of records doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get your answer. You need to actually understand how people use that data and how you should use that data. And finally, data needs to have guardrails on it. There needs to be some element of data governance to make sure that people are taking responsibility for that data, and that the entire organization, teams across the organization, are answering questions using data the same way. So we believe that the key for data culture to get those data-driven results is data search and discovery, data literacy, and data governance. Okay, I'm going to stop here. And again, as I mentioned, I wanted ample opportunity to make sure that we're answering questions. I see one question. I would love to learn how the Alation data catalog differs from other catalogs. We'll get to that. I mean, I'm not supposed to talk specifically about Alation, but I can talk about kind of our viewpoints of data catalogs out in the world, and we can talk about how Alation plays in that context. And Let me just make sure I'm hitting all of the other questions. And it looks like I think that's everyone. Okay. Let's see. So what is a data catalog? And I think this slide is very useful because, at least in my career, the term catalog has taken on a broader and broader meaning. So it's worthwhile to spend some time to just kind of define terms. At a basic level, the most traditional definition of a data catalog is that it's a repository of metadata from across your across information source in your organization. But another way that I like to think about it is it's at a basic level, it's an inventory of your enterprise data that allows you to then search and discover, collaborate, and perform governance over those data. The types of assets that it should catalog is really what I like to say is anywhere you go to get a data-driven answer to your question. And we have a series of different kind of examples of that, data sets, tables, articles, which could be a business glossary type term, reports, visualizations. But this is actually a growing set of objects that we're going to need to catalog. Frequently, customers come to me and say we need to make sure that in our data catalog we have things like Jupyter notebooks or machine learning models. We need to understand how we have different types of visualization tools or storytelling tools like infographics. So the types of objects that we're cataloging are going to grow. And then data catalogs have some common features that you're going to see regardless of what specific vendor you're going to deal with. And a few of them are the ability to create a business glossary, so a common set of definitions for your data. The ability to have some sort of understanding of lineage, understand where your data is coming and where your data is going. The ability to search for data, again, just kind of a basic premise, making sure you're looking through your inventory of data. And then also catalog pages for each kind of object or data set. Really, all of this builds up to 4 questions, which is, how do I find the information? Can I use that information? Is this the right data to answer my question? Should I be using it? Are there any privacy or governance or compliance implications? And then finally, how should I use this data? What is the actual route to go through and making sure I am able to query this data? This is the slide that I always like to say, in case you don't trust me, here's the smart folks at Forrester telling you what is the importance of using a data catalog. And again, don't want to run through all of these metrics, but the one that to me is crucial is the return on investment, the 364% return on investment. Big organizations, data-driven organizations, are investing a ton of money into things like moving their data in architecture into the cloud, investing in modern data warehouses and BI tools. And those investments require something like a data catalog to make sure you're seeing the return on that investment. If you build your brand new modern data warehouse, you need to make sure that you're actually using it to answer business questions and using it to get your answers to run your business. So this is where we think this is where kind of the expanded definition of a data catalog is important. I started off by saying that kind of at its core, a data catalog is an inventory of all of the enterprise data sources in your environment. And that's very straightforward. In order to perform data discovery, you have to understand where every single data set that might be relevant to your query is. But now a modern data catalog needs to go beyond that and add intelligence on top of that index. So it's not just a matter of showing you, if you type in customer, where all of the tables called customer or where all of the tables called CSTMR are within your enterprise organization. What's also crucial is that you have an intelligence factor that tells you which is the exact customer table to use. On top of that, you need a way to make sure that you can collaborate or ask the relevant data steward, is this the right table to use? Oh, I think those were supposed to pop up independently. So that's a lot of text to go through. But this is a similar idea that if you have an index of all of your data assets, you can perform data governance functions by doing something as simple as tagging your inventory based on what you know about it. But with some sort of level of intelligence, a data catalog should also be able to tell you what is the tags or what are the data sets that need to be documented. And an intelligent data catalog should also give you the tools to make creating a data culture into a team sport. So it's not just one person or one power user. It should be able to be delegated to across different users within your community. A data catalog should obviously be able to index all of your data assets to identify things like PII, what are important phone numbers, email addresses, account numbers that exist in your environment. But it should also be able to identify specific usage patterns in your data. So if you're finding out that a table is being queried for, an account number or phone number, you should be able to identify those problems, and you should be able to monitor for any sort of issues that might happen because of that data usage. Again, a data catalog should be able to tell you when you're preparing for data migration, either something like moving to the cloud or deprecating legacy data sources. It should give you a list of different objects that you need to prepare to migrate, but you need to add on, you should expect a level of intelligence to tell you what is the most important data asset that you are planning to move. Who's using that data asset? Can you communicate with them proactively to prepare them for the data migration and get their input to make sure that you are taking consideration of their requirements? But most importantly, the one takeaway that you should have from this is that a data catalog should be more than a index of your assets. If it has intelligence woven through the data catalog, it becomes a platform that enables a series of different use cases. From an architectural standpoint, because at the end of the day, if you're a data nerd like me, you really want to ask what does the architecture of something like this looks like. This is where a data catalog sits within your environment, with the bottom being the types of data sources that we're going to connect to. And it really, again, should be any place within your environment where you're going to get data-driven questions. Those could be BI tools. You could come to a data catalog and someone will already have an answer for the question you are trying to address within the data catalog. It could be a database, a data lake within the cloud or on-prem, where you might run a query to get an answer to those questions. It could be an application that you are using for your transactional system that should be rare, but you occasionally may need to touch to go and figure out an answer to your question. Or it could be any one of your cloud stores where you have a ton of data and something like a blob ready for querying. Once you have cataloged all of those data assets, then you can do all of those use cases that we have at the top of the slide. Data governance, which can mean multiple things. It can be data stewardship. It can be setting policies for how to use your data. It can be monitoring data quality. You can use a data catalog for analytics. That is that search and discovery piece, making sure that data analysts are really able to find the right data set and use the right data sets for their analytics. And the piece in the middle shows you how to connect those data sets to those use cases. You need a platform that enables intelligence, collaboration, guided navigation, and active governance. And we'll go through that in a moment. Here are some customers that we have documented and done case studies on to understand how they map their use cases to using a data catalog. And I like this slide because there's something that kind of sticks out at me, kind of annoys at me when I look at it. It's that there are some logos that are repeated here twice. You'll see American Family Insurance is on here 3 times. I think there's a couple, maybe 1 or 2 other logos that are on here twice. And the reason why I think that kind of initial kind of thing that jumps out at me is that these companies, the companies that are best at creating data cultures, use data catalogs for multiple use cases. It's not just enough to have a data catalog that does one of these data use cases. You really want to make sure that you're building a platform or working with a platform that can help you with your migration to the cloud or help you with managing risk and compliance, and all along the way, making sure that your data analysts are able to maximize the use of the data. I see a variety of questions that talk about kind of distinctions in the market between different data catalogs. And this is one way that one way that I think you can slice up the data catalog market to kind of understand what are different places where you have the data catalog. And I'm going to focus on this origins piece because I think it's very telling and very instructive to understand how a data catalog is built as a platform. If you have a data catalog that's focused on data search and discovery, then you can make people like data analysts very, very productive. And if you're making them productive, you can layer on use cases like giving them guardrails, giving them that governance, that they need to do the right thing with the data that they're looking for. If you start off purely for governance or compliance, well, then you end up locking down your data to a point where instead of turning your data into an asset, something that can create a data culture, you've actually prevented people from using that data to get the right answer to your question. And we think of that as really kind of a defensive approach to a data catalog. You're trying to keep people away from your data and not really getting into what it means as an asset. On the other hand, you'll see some data catalogs that are built off of existing tools. So you might have a BI tool or an ETL tool or a cloud system, and then you can try to toss on data catalogs just on top of it. What that means is that the data catalog becomes more of an afterthought. It doesn't drive these use cases. It's kind of a follow-on, and then it becomes more of an operations focus. So your data catalog is a way to manage the tool that it's on top of. Whereas what we really want is a data catalog oriented to making sure that people have access to safely use data and that it's an all-in-one platform that you can build on with a series of different use cases. Okay, I am going to stop and I'm going to make sure that I'm answering all of these questions. Okay, let's see. How do you address data governance is it included as part of the platform? Yeah, so that's a great question. And when I think of data catalog as a platform, obviously I think that that it's important for a data catalog to help many use cases, including governance. And I'm going to repeat what I just what I said the other moment, because to me it's a real key point of Alation, which is in Alation we make sure that people who use data, the people that are the smartest people that like to interact with data, query data, create reports, can use Alation, can use the data catalog to make sure that they are able to get to do their work faster. And if you enable that group, then you're going to get the people who don't necessarily know a ton about data to get into the environment. And once you have those people, the very sophisticated, the less sophisticated, then it is very easy for you to layer on data governance on top of that, because you have all of the key constituents that you need for building a data-driven or a data culture within your organization. Okay, I'll stop for just another moment. Is there any other questions that anyone wants to toss up on the Q&A? I'll give you another moment and then I'll go into the next section. Okay, great. So we talked about why we need a data culture and how a data culture is kind of a follow-on of getting a data catalog. We talked about the rise of enterprise data catalogs and what is meant for a data catalog as a platform. And now we'll talk about the pillars of what it means to have an intelligent data catalog. And we'll go through some of these in some detail. And again, if there's any questions, feel free to get me off course and pull me down a rabbit hole. So, we talked about the 4 questions a data catalog should answer. And these are the 5 pillars that build onto why a data catalog is important. First, as if you're not tired of hearing it from me, intelligence is really important. We need to move beyond just having an inventory of your assets. We need to have a data catalog give our users an accelerant to finding the right answer that they're looking for. I mentioned earlier that you want a series of different user groups. You want the people that are really good with the data in the same place as people who are less good with the data. You want them all collaborating together, so you're getting the expert knowledge out of people's head and into kind of a place where everyone can use it. For those users that are not so great at using data, you want to give them guided navigation so they can get better at being pretty decent at data, and maybe even an SME, maybe even the person you want to point to get an answer. You want active data governance, and we'll talk quite a bit about what this means. What I'm describing is that you need to make sure that you are giving people a security and privacy aware view of what it looks like to use that data, and making sure that they have access to the data while still being compliant and still driving towards business value in your organization. And then the final point, I think is almost a table stakes. We need to make sure that the data catalog connects to every place where there is a potential to answer a data-driven question. So you need broad and deep connectivity to make sure that you're getting access to the right data. We're going to spend the next few minutes. We're going to be spending the next few minutes diving into each one of these particular categories of Alation. Before I do that, I'm just going to let me answer one question. There will not be a demo of this particular. There will not be a demo of Alation during this. Where I'm trying to take off my Alation hat and just talk about data catalogs in general. But I'm sure you can follow up with me or my colleague Rajiv after this to understand how to get a demo. And then there's another question specifically, Alation versus Alex solutions. This may have been asked when I was going over a previous point. Feel free to ask a clarifying question and I can come back to that question. Okay, so let's talk about these 5 pillars. First and foremost, why do we need intelligence? And if you are around data, the first answer is pretty obvious. If we're going to say that you want to create a data catalog over all of your data, well, that's a Sisyphean task, right? You're never going to catch up to all of your data. You need a data catalog that tells you what is the right data to get you an answer to your question, and what is the right data for you to spend your time on curating. You need to make sure that curating a catalog should be no one's full-time 40 hours a week job. It should be many people's, let's say, 1 hour a week job. And when you do that, you need to say, for my 1 hour a week or however much time I'm going to spend, what is the data set that I need to make sure is right for the broader user group? And that's the importance of intelligence. Of course, you can't just do this manually, otherwise it turns into much more of a Wikipedia than it is an actual data catalog. So that's why you need aspects of a data catalog that helps curation, either things that can automate the curation process or things that can scale the manual creation that's already being done. And then you also need a tool that can help some of the curation process by looking at what is happening within the data, what is happening within the processes that is already happening in your organization. Collaboration. This is the point that I want to stay on once again, talking about what is happening with our current, with the world at large right now. Collaboration is always kind of a key to a data catalog. You need to make sure other people can understand what you are doing with the data, so that way they can reuse that knowledge. They can reuse the work that you have done to query data, to create visualizations, and ideally do it in such a way that's not impactful to the data creator's work, right? If I created a report, I want to put that report out there for a broad community to use, and I don't want to spend a lot of time explaining that report. A key to do that is making sure that you are getting that tribal knowledge out of individual heads and into something like a data catalog, so that way when someone new finds that particular report, they know exactly how to use it. Because we're remote, there's a difficulty in solving that coffee shop problem that I mentioned earlier, meaning, I might know that my colleague Rajiv or my colleague Aaron, or I might not know that they have the right answer, but we need a tool that will tell you that who are the SMEs of a particular data set. And these can't just be assigned. You need to have a tool that tells you how to actually determine who the SMEs are based on what they're doing within these data sets. That's the only way we can, kind of knit these closer tied communities, even though we're all working remotely or working kind of on the fly as kind of the pandemic changed our world. And then finally, you need collaboration that gives the end users an actual result. I'm not going to log into a data catalog if I don't get any actual answers. I need to, I want to log into a data catalog if collaborating with my team gets me clear answers to my questions, and also just the catalog itself, drives value for the end user. Which is kind of nicely to use up the next pillar, guided navigation. If you don't have some sort of way of guiding your users to the best data, to the right data, then it just becomes something like a inventory. I like to think about this as the difference between using a paper map and using Google Maps. Google Maps is, honestly, like, I live in New York and it's the coolest thing. It tells me what are the best, places to get pizza, not just all the places that are closest to me or all the places in my neighborhood. And this is because it gives you guided navigation to the right answer. Similarly, we, in New York, we have a lot of pizza, and organizations, they have a lot of data. We need to make sure that we are giving them an opportunity to find the right data, not just giving them an inventory of all of the data that's out there. And it's not just about guiding to the right data set, it's also about guiding to the right user group. It's also about guiding to the right tool. Maybe the right data is in the cloud, maybe the right data is still on-prem. Maybe you want to get to that data through a query instead of a BI report. It's about guiding people to the right answer. I always talk about, I always spend the bulk or the front of the time of data culture talking about analysts making sure that the people who use data have access to the right data. But then, this is the thing that comes right behind that. If people are using a data catalog to access data, well, then you need to make sure that they're using data in an appropriate and intelligent way, meaning you should be actively governing the usage of that data in a data catalog. We don't have time to be reactive with data governance. You can't wait for something to go wrong. You have to be in the data catalog, actively making sure that users are using data correctly. And why is this important? Why does the active part in part of a data catalog, why is that necessary? In a data catalog, you should in some way or form use the data catalog to actually interact with data, query data, or open BI reports. And active data governance means that as you're querying that data, as you're interacting with that BI report, you get guidance from your stewards and your governance officers as to what is the appropriate way to use that data, either from a compliance perspective or just in a way that makes sure that everyone is speaking the same language. So that way you're not spending time, making this a variety of different mistakes when you're looking at data. And then finally, we have the importance of broad and deep connectivity to all of the places within your environment that you have answers to questions. And I keep phrasing it this way, answers to questions, because early in my career, I started off working as an analytics person, and that meant a very specific set of skills. I knew how to make data warehouses and build data warehouses, and then eventually I figured out how to make visualizations and BI reports on top of that. And that was, that was enough to get me to pay for many of my meals as a analytic consultant. But then, the next thing that comes around is I have people that say, well, you know what, we're getting answers to our questions in a data lake, or we're not even waiting for data to be staged. We're getting answers to questions in a Jupyter notebook that's connecting right to my Stripe API to make sure that I'm getting data directly. Just the places and the types of ways that people are answering data-driven questions are going to become broader and broader. And we need to make sure that the data catalog keeps up with that and has deep connection so it can intelligently guide our users about what is the right way to use data. Okay, we are on the home stretch. So I'm going to stop again. I see that there's a couple questions. And let's see if we can answer it. So suggestions on how to collect process metadata from user-driven processes, e.g. Excel. So let's see. I have the Alation answer to that, which is typically there's a couple different ways to look at that. So one is when people are using data in Excel, at some point they're extracting it from a data source, and if you're connecting from to that data source in a deep way, if you're understanding what are the usage patterns of that data source, you can understand what data they're pulling into their Excel. So you get some level of metadata process or metadata or usage patterns just by knowing that they're doing data dumps in Excel. The second piece, and I'm going to admit this is a little bit of a cheeky answer, once you know that people are doing that, having a catalog will help you stop that, right? Like, I think that we would hope for compliance and regulation reasons that we can move people away from getting, collecting data-driven or kind of putting a pause on everyone doing a lot of their analysis on Excel and push to something that's a little more governable or controllable for, the sake of everyone in the organization. The second question I have here, you mentioned that catalog intelligence can help identify SMEs. Is that because of their interaction with the catalog or the source system? Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think that is important for all catalogs, for people to understand exactly where we are concluding information about the data. And I think that if you rely solely on just what's happening in the catalog, you're not going to create a good user experience for end users. You really have to understand what people are doing in the source system. You need a data catalog that is going into the source systems, understanding who are the users there, who is querying what, and how are they querying it, and presenting that information in unified experience. If you're solely relying on using what people are doing in the data catalog to tell you about the data set, you're going to end up with really needing to spend a lot of time curating your environment and really getting away from the point of having that intelligence layer on top of your data assets or data inventory. Okay, I just have a couple more slides. So, if you have any questions, feel free to toss it into the chat, and I'll start to wrap up. So, I think we talked about what intelligent enterprise data catalog offers you, active data governance, broad deep connectivity, collaboration, guided navigation, and intelligence. These pillars all add up to a data culture by supporting these 4 pillars. And I think I've talked to some extent, right? Active data governance clearly and maps to data governance, but I would also say that it maps to data literacy, making sure that everyone is talking about data and talking about data in the same way. Data search and discovery requires active navigation to make sure that the data search is providing the right result, not just all of the results. And of course, I can go on with the other pillars, but I think we have understood the idea. So with that, I'll toss it over to see if there's any additional questions or any additional things I can talk through. Okay, let me check the Q&A section to see if there are any additional questions. Okay, I think I've hit all of the questions, unless I'm missing I'm missing anything.
So I have a couple of questions, Raja, if it is all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please do.
So as an organization, if we want to start our intelligent data catalog journey, what are some of the first few things we need to consider?
So if you're starting your journey with the data catalog, first I would understand how to prioritize the use cases that you're looking to accomplish. I think there was one screen I put up where I put about 6 use cases that map to different customers, and I pointed out that I like that many of our customers are on those different many of those use cases. What I would say is don't attempt to do 3 use cases at once. Maybe attempt to do 2, but really pick what is your core use cases. Are you getting a data catalog because you want to implement a data governance program? Are you getting a data catalog because you want to use it to move to the cloud? Are you getting a data catalog to satisfy privacy needs or to make your analysts more productive? If you have that clarity of which one of those use cases makes your data catalog that you can start with first with your data catalog, I think that will help you choose a data catalog and make sure and help you understand, how best it is to get started implementing the data catalog.
Okay, and can we do intelligent data catalog with the traditional system that we're currently using, or do we need to buy additional tools to support our journey?
When you say buy additional tools, do you need to purchase a data catalog, or do you need to change your underlying data architecture?
Purchase additional tool, or even if we need to change the architecture. So what are some of those concepts?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think this is the point about broad and deep connectivity that I think that I think hits home with me, which is a data catalog should be about seeing a return on your existing investment. So you don't really want to say, I am going to buy a data catalog and therefore I have to buy an integration platform, or I have to buy 3 other things. Your data catalog should be there to quickly see a return on investment from your existing analytical infrastructure.
Okay, and we have a few more questions. Probably we can pick a couple of them from there, Raja.
Yeah. So many of these are pretty easy for me to run through. So any metadata catalogs that utilize blockchain, including the competition. So I'll have to confess some ignorance. I can't speak about every single one of our competitors' solutions. I am not aware of any catalog that has blockchain at its core, at its fundamental core or underlying stack. I'm not saying that there isn't, but there's not one that I know of or could name check. I could potentially see using blockchain to prove trustworthiness of your data catalog, but typically we do that by making sure that you can see the names of the people contributing to your catalog. For example, the thing that I find really trustworthy about logging into our internal instance of Alation is not that it's running on blockchain or running the cloud or anything like that. It's that my colleague Aaron Kalb or Rajiv or any of the other number of people that I trust have had their name by the byline for curating a catalog or a query or something like that. So I would say that it's possible to have blockchain, but the key really is making sure that the trust is in people, not really in the tool inherently. Okay, let's close that one. Do you have a presence in Australia? Yeah, we do actually. Thinking back to my customer slide, We have Telstra as a customer. We have CBA. Actually, I should toss it over to Rajiv. Do you want to speak about this? This is my colleague in Australia.
I can touch on that. Stephen here. Thanks, Raj. So yeah, we have a presence. I'm here locally in Australia. Rajiv is as well. We have a direct presence in Sydney and Melbourne. So if anybody needs to contact Alation, they can do so. You can go to the website, alation.com. Several customers, as Raja mentioned, we have Telstra Belong that was on the slide, CBA, Qantas, to name a few. So plenty of customers as well. So absolutely have direct as well as partners here in Australia, and happy to have those conversations at another time.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. What is the typical user of Alation? And I love this question because it lets me come back to my favorite point is the best user of a data catalog is someone who likes to use data a lot. So a data analyst, a data scientist. This can be someone on IT that uses data a lot to satisfy business. This could be the power user on the business side who, everyone on his team goes to him or her to get an answer to their question. That is the typical user. But I will say, and I always kind of think of this as kind of like it would be a sneaky trick if we didn't have it all over our slideware, which is once you satisfy them, then you can get your governance team, then you can get your data stewards to make sure that those users are using data correctly and making sure that they are, using data safely. So there's really two levels. There's first you get the data analyst, and then you can have the data stewards put guardrails around those users. And of course, I mentioned there's a ton of other use cases. It's typical to see chief information security officers involved in data catalog to understand things like where sensitive data is and where there could be potential data leaks, or if someone's using data when they're not supposed to. So there's all sorts of long tail of users, but to me, the typical users are people who like to use data a lot, people who want to give those that first group guardrails to make sure that they're using the right data. How long does it take to implement a data catalog? Again, I'll go back to my earlier response, which is your data catalog should be able to quickly get you return on investment of your existing analytical infrastructure, that 364% number that Forrester determined, which means that your data catalog should not be a major implementation on the size of your data warehouse. It should be something that is up in, I would say at most months, but really honestly, I guide most of my customers and clients that you're really looking something that you want to see return value in a matter of days or weeks, something that is going to happen on a relatively straightforward process to make sure that you are seeing, again, return on your investment in your analytical infrastructure.
Thank you, Raja. Another question from me. So in the current pandemic, Raja, how do you see that the data catalog is getting used to do something unique in the market?
I might tackle, Raj, I might just give one example of that. Qantas, which is a customer of the Alation catalog, for example, they had a lot of layoffs. We saw in the news about 6,000 layoffs recently, and they switched their whole work paradigm, like a lot of companies, to working from home. And they had said that because people working home and they had never looked at data previously, they looked at the data catalog as a critical tool to their survival and for finding information. So it really, the adoption increased as a result, and it enabled, people onboarding new folks into the organization, and people that, were looking at data for the first time to be able to find that data very quickly. But over to you, Roger, that's a particular example.
Yeah, I think that's primary example is that people are not able to collaborate the ways that they traditionally do. I would also add that just as workforces are changing, the nature of the types of work that are out there, it's no longer everyone is having a full-time job where you're going to get all of the information out of their head and get it. You can be confident you can always talk to the same set of 3 people. We're dealing with an increasingly flexible workforce where you have to make sure that you have a common platform to collaborate, curate, and access this data. So if tomorrow, let me actually just come out and be very explicit with this. We are finding that people are changing jobs more, not less, and I think the pandemic is an accelerant of that. And really, data analysts, people who know how to use data really well, they are the kinds of people that are changing jobs the most. So you need to make sure that you have a place to get the information out of their heads and able to quickly onboard new employees that will need to use that same data set.
Fantastic. Thank you, Raja. Thank you for your time. I know you're joining with us from New York, so it's close to your bedtime. Thank you very much and helping us to learn from you around Intelligent Data Catalog. And I'm really sorry for knowing that Aaron is going through some family challenges. I wish he were here as well. He actually participated on the dry run and he was very excited to share his insight as well. I wish him all the best.
Yep, I will pass on your wishes, and I hope I was a pleasant one-man show instead of the combo. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you. And I also work with Stephen and Rajiv behind the scenes. So you heard Stephen's voice, and Rajiv was responding to some of your question in Q&A as well. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you for working with us to make this event happen.
Yeah, thank you so much for the DAMA organization, all the members and folks that came online and listened. We really appreciate your support, and hopefully you learned something from it. And obviously, Rajiv and I are both in LinkedIn. We're happy to connect with you and share any ideas on this and thoughts. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen. And again, Rajiv put his contact details in the chat box. So you have his email address, and both Rajiv and Raja and Stephen, they're all available in LinkedIn if you want to reach out. I believe they'll love to show their product as well. So if you're interested to see how Alation addresses some of the data catalog related challenges, I think they'll be happy to show that to you as well. So just a little bit more on what's happening next. So please join us on 10th of November for our next webinar where Rainer and Lara will present on Ultimate Guide to Machine Learning Powered Enterprise Data Catalogs. So which is good in a way that there's some follow-up session as well on this data catalog. So please join for that session as well. If you want to register for the session, go to our dama.org.au website. You'll be able to register for that event. And again, the recording of the current session and the presentation slides will be uploaded in our website as well in next couple of days. So feel free to go to access the presentation and also look at the presentation recording again. And there are a lot more recordings there on our website. Please go to our website to learn more about our activities that we are doing in Australia, know about our membership options, and we look forward to see you in our next webinar. Thank you. Thanks to DAMA Australia and Sydney branch. And thanks to you for coming and catching up for this event. I'm sure that all of us has learned something new today. So I look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. So take care, stay safe. Thank you.